Thank you so much for joining Conversations with Cohen. I'm your host, Greg Cohen, office leasing specialist at Cressa, and this podcast is for office tenants to help educate them about all things regarding their offices, from leasing to architecture and everything in between. Whether you're an entrepreneur thinking about your first office or a director of real estate managing a large real estate portfolio, this podcast is for you. I've got an exciting show for you today. My guest is Mark Green of Sher-Del Transfer. We're going to be talking about moving in a world not free from COVID, the options that tenants have for the stuff that's in their offices, and how tenants should be thinking about the physical move as they think about new offices or perhaps remote working. He's also a bit of a grill master, so we'll get a look under the hood as to what he's been cooking on the barbecue towards the end of the show. If you want to reach me, I'm at Greg Cohen NYC on Instagram. And if you're new to this video series or podcast, hit the subscribe button below so you never miss a future episode. Today, I'm very excited to be joined by Mark. If you don't know him, he's become a fast friend of mine and is the co-owner of Sher-Del Transfer with his brother Stanley Green. The business was started in 1947, more than 70 years ago, by their father, Joseph Green, on Sheriff and Delancey Streets under the Williamsburg Bridge, which is how he chose the name Sher-Del for his business. They have a big operation with over 30 trucks and a storage warehouse of 100,000 square feet in New Jersey. They are a leader in the moving industry and my go-to for my clients when they need a resource. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Greg. Thanks for having me.
Mark, I'm pumped to have you on today because the workplace is such a hot topic. I'm getting questions from tenants about moving and COVID, about working remotely, about basically what they need to be thinking about as they start to think about a move. So, Mark, maybe we can start with, what are the services that Sher-Del Transfer offer?
Well, we're a complete corporate relocation company. Besides just doing the large and mid-size and any size corporate move for a tenant, we also have various points of storage, whether it be furniture storage, wreckage storage, new furniture storage, IT and logistical storage, as well as furniture installation. As
really runs the gamut.
Yeah, it runs the gamut. Anything to do with delivering office furniture, contents, and PCs, whether it be directly for the client or even outside vendors such as furniture companies or even glass wall companies that put the architectural glass walls into a project prior to even the space being built.
So let's start with, in a COVID world, who are the folks who are using your resources now? How can people be thinking about how you and your service could help their organization in a time when they can't even get into their physical office?
Well, one category of clientele that we're servicing, rather quickly and rather often in these trying times are people that are in flux, that they've planned to move, that their construction projects on their new space has been shut down because of the COVID restrictions, and they have to get out of their existing lease commitments. So we've been busy coming in, packing up everything, asset inventorying everything, categorizing it, asset labeling it, and then taking it back to our storage facility so that while the people are operating virtually, they have they could still touch their paperwork and their items through us. And then through digitally web-based systems, we can get them whatever information they need via scanning or via fax or email.
So I think that's really important to highlight because it's something that I would not necessarily have thought of. If I was a company that had lots of files, but I couldn't physically access them because of restrictions of COVID, your firm can help them be a conduit to help access those files.
Absolutely. I mean, on a minute-to-minute basis, day-to-day basis, we have a full staff that's been operating since the COVID restrictions. And the operation starts at 6:30 in the morning till 6 o'clock at night on an average day. So whether it be a law firm, insurance company, an accounting firm, any of the the compliance documents or tax documents or HIPAA documents that they would need. It's at their finger touch through their computer, and we're just the arm for them to get it to them as soon as they need it.
So it sounds like a real viable solution for folks so that they can work remotely. Now let's just talk about for the tenant with the upcoming move, right? Who has identified space that they've identified space, they've gone to lease, they've got a lease expiration, they've got concerns, people touching their stuff, right? Other people besides themselves. So can you help us understand how you folks treat stuff, how you protect product so that to reduce the risk of infection?
Well, a lot of clients, prior to us even getting into their space, even just for our executive project team to even go and survey the jobs to see what the work entails, they've been hopefully decontaminated already and wiped down and disinfected. Then when our staff comes in, they're fully outfitted with PPE equipment and guidelines and have gone through the training of social distancing. And where we would normally put 20 men into a space on a floor because of the distancing, we've cut down the crew size by a considerable amount, by 30 or 40%, to facilitate a safe workplace. It may take a little bit longer, but safety is the utmost concern.
And for a tenant who has a large footprint or any sort of real estate footprint in a physical office, but is trying to figure out what to do next. And I mention that because something that we've done at Cressa is we've created a remote services platform to be able to help tenants think through, could they work remotely? How could they work remotely, or what portion of their people could do that, either through managerial reasons, the cost impact. So I ask that because if I'm a tenant who doesn't know what's coming next, right? They haven't decided on the next move for them. How does Sher-Del Transfer help them?
Well, again, as I said, we offer all of these virtual services and solutions for them so that they're really not doing business where things have stopped, and we facilitate the outsourced solution for them through the record storage, just from the record storage platform that we have in our warehouse, which is 100,000 plus, and then we have another building literally around the corner. So we have hundreds of thousands of boxes of records that are at our hands length with our staff and our people in our warehouse. And through the digitally web-based program, it would be almost as if they would be calling up their own record center within their own facility. The only difference is it's not in their building. It's in our facility.
Right. And
through digital web-based systems, they're getting the information, usually same-day service.
Help me fill in the blank. We've got a lot of people who listen and watch to this show who haven't done a move before, or maybe it's the first time in this role in their organization. So if it was your sister and you didn't have a moving company, but you know what you know now about moving, what are the first three things, or what are the three most important things that she should ask or consider when thinking about choosing a mover?
I would think the first question, especially if it's in an office space, is obviously you want to go with a company that has a long history of doing commercial moving. There's a lot of moving sources in the city. If you looked it up on a directory, you'd see an enormous amount, but most of them are residential people. And you really want to go with a firm, especially now in these trying times where you may not even be able to get into your offices or choose not to go to your offices. So we've now become, besides the mover, we've become the project manager and also a pseudo facility person for the company. So we kind of have to do the thinking for them So when we're going into a space, we want to know the different departments. We want to know the seating chart, where the people are sitting, so that when we tag and label, because that's a very key thing, is to inventory and label properly before it leaves the facility. So even if it does wind up in our warehouse temporarily, whether it be a year, 6 months, 4 months, 3 months, we know who all of the items belong to, whether it be their PCs, whether it be artwork, whether it be their special type of furniture that they have, or ergonomic furniture that belongs to each person. So everything is tagged and labeled as if it was going to go to a new office space on a normal situation and just do a normal move. But at least it's all categorized and labeled and asset inventoried in our facility. So that's something that is important, so that even a new person that never handled a move before, when it's ready to go to a final destination, it has a roadmap where it came from and who it belongs to, so we can get destined to go to the right area, so that when it does go to a new facility, they can be operational immediately, that it's not going to be a puzzle to figure out. So it's important. It's important to know that you're choosing a commercial mover that has decades of experience and knows how to operate with all the different nuances in the buildings under normal conditions, and then certainly under COVID, just knowing how they have to conduct themselves during a COVID situation where there's really restricted services with elevators and business and building accessibility. And you may not be the only one working in the building at the same time. So it's important to know that you have an experienced commercial mover.
So that's number one. You got a number two and a number three?
The mover has to be flexible. And the mover, besides flexibility, number three is they have to have depth of services to be able to react to any last minute change or surprise, which obviously there's been quite a few in the last couple of months. And even normally, we have to react to construction delays, building delays, even traffic and water main breaks where streets are not accessible. All these type of things that could pop up during a move. There has to be depth in services of project management, equipment, and staff. And then you also have to have flexibility to react almost on the same day's notice to correct and solve a problem.
So how do I, as a tenant, when interviewing someone, find out ask the question about the depth of their capabilities? What's the question I ask?
You want to see a resume and look up some other references in the corporate world, in the corporate environment, so that they can check. And then you also want to make sure and double back with the buildings that you're going in and out of, that mover is acceptable and is in good graces with the realty corporation, to make sure you're not hiring somebody that may be not favorable to working within other buildings. So that's important as well. You don't want to be surprised last minute after you've chosen somebody. That's, just doing your homework. And then, of course, being properly advised on the insurance regulations today, as far as how to properly protect yourself within your own insurance policies. Never purchase insurance from a commercial mover. That insurance protects the mover, ultimately. It's always good to be protected within from their own insurance source.
Understood. So that may or may not be the answer to the next question, which is the biggest hidden expense in a move that is the biggest surprise for tenants is what?
I think if the tenant decides to move their existing furniture, that's usually in the pre-construction and possibly even pre-lease negotiations or their fact-finding of all their different expenses between construction and furniture and data, telecom. They want to figure out, is it even worth the expense of moving, possibly disassembling and reassembling mechanically the furniture that they possess, as opposed to buying new and having it already in place prior to the move. because most of the time, for example, let's have an example that a client of ours had 250 workstations that they bought 4 years ago. And the furniture was in very, very good shape and was very functional. Now they made a decision to move, and they have a couple of hundred people that they have to take out of the existing workstations first, interrupt the staff, possibly have work productivity disrupted for a week, to be able to knock down all that furniture during the day, disassemble all the electric data and wiring, and then move it usually overnight in stages of each night, and then rebuilding it during the day. So between the moving and the mechanical cost and the electrical and data telecom cost, the delta may not be, even though, for example, a mover, of course, benefits by moving as much as they can, but we try to tell clients to give them the data to make that intelligent decision that it may be better off that they're paying us to liquidate the furniture and taking it away from the space after they've moved, because it's usually a very stressful time over a weekend where they have a milestone to get hundreds of people moved in a weekend so that Monday morning they're up and running again. So it's really the business interruption that they have to look at on the dollar side to see if it's even worth it. And usually when you're moving the furniture, that's a big cost to move.
And so you mentioned liquidation. So what does that mean? What is that service? How can you help? When do you come into the picture? So what is liquidation? Let's start there.
Liquidation is either getting the existing tenant some cash value, even though it's a depreciated value, to either ease the pain of socially and strategically removing the furniture and being very environmentally conscious on how it's getting discarded. So sometimes there is certain aspects of the furniture. Let's say, for example, there's a liquidation cost of $50,000, and maybe there's 10 or 15,000 that's really useful, good product that can get resold on the wholesale market. We'll be able to reach out to our sources throughout the country of the wholesale level and see if there's any interest prior to, or even since we do an enormous amount of nonprofit work, try to help the client donate the furniture where they might be able to get a tax benefit of a letter of donation. But that's all done while we're also focusing on pricing out the move cost for them, even months prior to even the job getting into fruition to move. We're also giving them a measurement of the liquidation cost as well as the moving cost at the same time.
So you mentioned months before. So when should a tenant engage you in the process of either at least negotiations, and forward? Well,
it's a very good question, because if you are contemplating what to do with the furniture lead times are usually minimums of 8 weeks from the office furniture companies. So in order to facilitate a proper decision, I think if somebody reaches out to a mover 3 months before, they give themselves ample time to get all the facts they need to make an intelligent decision, which usually the furniture, the cost is certainly more paramount than the office move. And that's why the mover really should be coming in even a month before they even have to make a furniture commitment. So it's usually, in my opinion, a safe bet is around 3 months before. There are certain people that they just automatically know that they're going to go with new furniture because of a new layout or a new density plan, and they know they've been in the space for a long time. Then, even if you wanted to play close, they have enough time to hire us or to actually ask us to come in. I think 6 weeks to 4 weeks, the 4 to 6 week window is okay, but I don't recommend that, because you still have to have a commercial mover of our level interface with the different departments, find out and do all the fact finding within the company's network of people and departments, how they function, how the paperwork flows, where the paperwork is going to wind up in new common areas. So there's a lot of preparatorial work to doing an office move to give a client a finished product so that they're able to be functioning once they go through a move weekend.
Now, the comment about donations of furniture makes me then think, okay, who can benefit from that? So who should care? Who should think about being on the receiving end of donations of furniture? Who takes that furniture, and who can benefit from that?
Well, there's certainly the largest nonprofits that you know of throughout the country, and a lot of social nonprofits. For example, when we do institutional work and college work, and there's dorms that have to be removed, there's certainly special need camps that may need bedding or that type of furniture. That's just one aspect.
Right.
Then you may have other nonprofits that have daytime classroom services for special need people, where they may need an enormous amount of table space and chairs. And these are things that don't have to be in a pristine condition as far as decorative color and style, but functionality can save a nonprofit a lot of money.
Understood. That's great. That's great to know. Mark, you've done so many moves over the years. What is the most bizarre move you've ever done?
Wow, that's a tough question, because every year there seems to be one that pops up more than ever. Well, one interesting and bizarre move that we did was last year for the American Kennel Club, the Museum of the Dog. And we relocated the museum from St. Louis, from the suburban areas of St. Louis, back into New York, into 101 Park Avenue, where they built out a beautiful, beautiful museum and office space. And it was quite interesting to go out of state, have to interface with the client and other people and other vendors out of state, and to ensure that thousands of items of museum quality had to get properly packed and created and inventoried and cataloged, and then synchronized and come back to our warehouse facility. And then when the space was able to accept it, because they were under the guidelines and deadlines, to be able to bring it in a manner of which it was still being acceptable, and the curator had to commission the artwork and the sculptures and statues and all the different material that belongs to the museum while the museum was under full-blown construction. Mm-hmm. So that was pretty challenging, and it's also very important that a vendor that gets hired has to be flexible, as I said before previously in the broadcast, that they also have to have good working relationships with all the other vendors, so for the benefit of the client, so that for the common goal that the mission gets completed. You have to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. So that's one of the most challenging moves that I've seen in a long time, as far as it goes.
And what about the biggest surprise, or the thing that you saw inside of a space, like the craziest thing that you've had to move?
Craziest thing that we've had to move, I think, was when we moved the wind tunnels in the Annapolis Naval Academy, which are the scientific testing chambers that will see how a vessel or an airship, but mostly a vessel, will react under wind and current, all these scientific machines, as well as some of the pharma work that we do when we move labs, when you're moving some of the interesting scientific machinery. like we do the work at the New York Blood Center, as well as the New York Stem Cell Foundation, where they have these unbelievable machines that are really doing amazing work, and they leave it up to you to make sure that you're getting it properly prepared, created, and relocated so that it can get re-implemented into the laboratory environment. So it's pretty interesting. You learn every time. Each situation is somewhat different depending upon the client's needs. But and of course, through the COVID that we've been dealing with, we've been seeing a lot of stressful situations, even more stressful than we were operating at 9/11. We also had a lot of interaction in the trade center when we had full crews working at Deutsche Bank and in the trade center when unfortunately the tragedy hit. So that was also unfortunately a very unique situation for us.
But what it sounds like to me is, Mark, now more than ever, it's crucial for tenants to choose someone and a firm that has a massive amount of experience, who's done thousands of moves, and who has seen most, if not all, of the different situations and knows how to react, so that they know that they are really in a safe pair of hands. And I think it's very clear that Sher-Del Transfer is exactly that company. So I really want to thank you, Mark, for sharing that insight with us. I think it's a part of the office leasing process that a lot of folks don't know about. I would imagine many just go on a Google, right? If they're a smaller company and they just type in moving, and it's just very clear that there are a lot of mistakes that can be made, and it's not just it's not a commodity, but it's a personal stuff, and it needs to be tended to. So let's turn for a moment and change gears. I know you're a bit of a grill master, and we've been home for 12 weeks, and you got a barbecue. It'd be interesting to hear what you've been cooking, and what's the best cut of meat, and where do we get it? Because I know you like your meat.
Well, we when I was going out to the stores, we have a couple of unique butcher opportunities. One is the steakhouse out in the Roslyn area, or the Manhasset area, which is Bryan and Cooper. They have their own retail butcher shop. So you can get the finest and the best cuts of aged meat or regular meat, of steaks, of ribeyes or New York strips, or any type of cut that you like, and pre-order it, and then they will bring it out to your car and put it into your trunk. Or you can go to the good old Stu Leonard's, which is pretty good meat for the everyday person that wants to just put meat on the grill and they're not such a gourmet. They have very good quality as well as Costco does. So all those choices are perfectly fine.
Stu Leonard's, is there a cut or two or a thing that you like at Stu Leonard's?
The ribeyes, the bone-in ribeyes, I like. We can get them cut you can get them 2 inches. You can even get them 3 inches if you want.
And you put any sauce on that? You marinate it? What do you do?
Sometimes just kosher salt and pepper. Sometimes just olive oil, kosher salt, and pepper. That's it. And one last thing, they do have great New Zealand baby lamb chops. Those are very good.
Local knowledge. I love my lamb chops. So
yeah, yep. Simple McCormick steak seasoning. That's it. Or salt and pepper. You don't have to do You don't have to go any further than that.
And what kind of grill do you have? What kind of barbecue do you have?
I have a Lynx grill. Is
that gas? I guess that's gas.
It's a gas grill. Yeah. The biggest thing that I learned, because I've ruined my fair share of good meat, is not to overcook it, not to overchar it. And if you put it on the searing station, if the grill has one, you put it on for about 1.5 minutes on each side, take it off the direct heat. Sometimes I'll even like to put it up on the top shelf of the grill, close the cover, and then we'll roast the meat for maybe 4 minutes under high temperature. You could always, err on the side of caution and cook things on medium rare, and then always put it back on if it's too rare for you. But if you overcook it, you can't go back. And another good thing that I've started to do is with a stainless steel cast iron pan, where I'll lightly oil it, salt it, make it good and hot on the stovetop. We have a hood, an exhaust hood up above, so the smoke's not an issue. And I'll let the meat just kosher salt and pepper. Just let it sit out in room temperature for half an hour. Get that pan really, really good and hot. And then I'll sear the meat about 1.5 to 2 minutes on each side. And then I will put it into the oven and roast it for about 450 to 500 degrees for about, again, 4 or 5 minutes. And get it up to medium rare to medium. And then take it out and let it sit for another minute or two. And then if you want to be adventuresome and you want to put some butter on it, which tastes great, but it's not exactly the healthiest thing to do, it makes it even better.
And because we gotta support local businesses, right? You like your steak. When we're in New York City, what is the place you are really looking forward to going to have your first meal in New York City?
That is a very, very good question because there's a lot of good choices. I will say that I do love the rib steak at Maloney and Porcelli's on 50th Street. They do have a great Cajun ribeye, and they also have a great angry lobster. And they've had it for years. What is an angry lobster? They broil the lobster with some kind of, type of chili, hot chili type oil and garlic. And they have a side order of mashed potatoes. So it's like a spicy type of Cajun, but spicy seasoning onto the lobster. It's really, really, really good. I mean, it's 10:50, but you're getting me hungry. Can we make this as a agreement that when we're both back in New York City, we can go for a nice meal at Maloney Porcelli? That sounds like an amazing. Absolutely, but let's not forget about the burnt hash browns. You can't leave that out with the cream spinach. You got to have that. If we have to, twist my arm. My pleasure. Mark, thank you so much for your time and your insight. I know you're very busy, but I want to thank you for sharing some of your thoughts and how we should be thinking about moving and best practices and how we can set ourselves, our tenants up for success in the moving process. For those who haven't listened before or subscribed, again, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. And this was Conversations with Cohen with Mark Green of Sher-Del Transfer, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again, Mark. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.